Hey everybody, this is Jim the Tabletop Engineer and welcome to a new video. This is not a playthrough video. This is a video I have been wanting to make for some time now. It's for a game that I have played quite often. I still play it occasionally with my youngest son, although he doesn't like to be on video any longer. I have recorded videos in the past and I'll point you to those in the video description below. But the game in question, if you read the thumbnail, is a game called Space Weirdos. It is... it's one of those games that I think slips under the radar of any wargamer, especially sci-fi wargamer, because it just never was marketed. It was never really advertised. I stumbled upon it, and I'm going to be honest with you, I cannot remember how I stumbled upon it. I think I was just browsing some of the newer games at the time that had been released on the Wargame Vault, which is like a drive-through RPG for wargaming. And I found it, I downloaded it, I played it, and I just think it's just one of the most, it's a surprising little game with a lot of twists and turns that I think everybody ought to be playing it. So what I want to do in this video is I sat down and I came up with my 10 reasons that you need to be playing Space Weirdos. So I'm going to point you to the tabletop, and I'm going to explain my reasons in real simple terms. I'm going to keep this short, so hopefully you'll go out, grab a copy of the game, and start playing. So let's get to number. The first reason that you should be playing this game is because it is fun and inexpensive. What you are buying is a 16 half-page zine. It's just, when I say half-page, 8.5 by 11, folded in half. 16 pages. Only about 8 to 9 pages of actual rules, and most of that is made up of charts that you'll be consulting. For $5 US, you get this game. And now, I will say, since the game has been released, the author has added some extra stuff that comes as downloadable PDF files with it. The most important one being the solo rules, which I will talk about shortly. But the game is a you download the book, print it out, or not, read it on your tablet, and it's very, very small, very inexpensive, and like I said, it is very fun, totally worth playing. All right, number 2. This one may or may not matter to you, but I think it's important for you to understand. It is miniature agnostic. It means you can play with whatever miniatures you want. I mean, they probably should look sci-fi, but they don't have to. Most of the sci-fi miniatures are going to be firing ranged weapons, but there is an entire section on claw and tail weapons, so that you could play aliens that are using your melee skills. The miniature agnostic means that those of you who have kids, and this is another reason I'll talk on later, maybe you want to play with Lego minifigs is what they call them. Maybe you have standees, like cutouts. There's plenty of places on the internet that sell sci-fi figures that you can print on cardboard or sturdy board, print out, and play just like that. You don't need metal or plastic painted miniatures to enjoy the game. So the miniature agnostic portion of it, I think, is one of the benefits, because if you go with certain games, you may feel pressure to buy that game's miniatures, or in some cases, some games have rules where you have to use their miniatures, especially if you're going to play in like competitions and tournaments. This game has none of that. Number 3, this one is important to me because I like to play solo games, and again, we'll get to that. This one has no campaign, all right? When you play a game against an opponent, solo, against 3 opponents, however many players you want, there is no story. It's up to you to come up with a story. There is no ongoing campaign where your miniatures, your heroes are going to level up, and maybe your opponent is leveling up and you're not, and so they're becoming more powerful. This one is, it's strictly a one-shot type war game. Now, you can play it over and over, But what I mean by that is you come to the table, you play your game, and when you're done, there is a clear winner, and everybody shakes hands and walks away until you play again next time. It's just a straight last man standing type of game. All right, number 4. This one is not unique to Space Weirdos, but it has a point system for creating your warband. And the reason I like that is, if you're playing against an opponent, the two of you decide ahead of time how many points you're going to have to spend on your warband. The rulebook does have suggestions, but my son and I, when we play, we come up with a point system based on all our previous experience playing the games, and we've slowly creeped that number up a little bit. And why is that important? The points are what you use to buy skills, weapons, unique traits. There's enough variability in the rules that those points will allow you to really make a custom warband that is not going to be like your opponent. Now, as you play the game enough, you may find that there are certain weapons or certain skills that you kind of want to always have, as does your opponent, and that's fine, but there's plenty of variability. My son frequently buys a skill that I've never played. I like how he plays it. It doesn't appeal to me in terms of gameplay. And I tend to spend my points on bulking up my warband. What do I mean by that? Well, your warband isn't limited, well, it is limited by the rules to a certain number of figures, but it's really the points. You could have 10 or 12 members of your warband going up against me, and I might have 5 warband members. And what does that tell you? What it tells you is that I've used most of my points to increase the abilities and skills and stuff of what I do bring to the table. It means my guys might be bigger, badder, stronger, but you have more warband members, and so you're going to get more movement and more chances to shoot at me, for example. There's a balance there, and again, it comes with playing the game and figuring out the rules. But the point system to me is definitely the way to go, especially since this is a one-shot game. Remember, no campaign, no leveling after the game is over and stuff like that. Spend your points, create your warband. When the game is over, the next time you play, you start all over, but you can tweak the number of points you start. Okay, let me tell you one of my absolute favorites about this game is the solo rules. Now, in most sci-fi war games that I play solo, I have to sort of take on the role of the bad guys. And I try to do that by saying, okay, if I was the opponent, if I'm facing me, what would I do? Sometimes you have to play the opponents dumb. Sometimes you have to play them smart. It just depends on the game you're playing. Most of the war games I play have solo rules. And some games I really like their solo rules. Some of them not so much. Space Weirdos has a very simple, very unique set of solo rules. And without getting into too much detail, here's how it works. Your warband members, or your enemies, because remember, you're playing solo. Your warband enemy, the enemy you're playing, the soldiers that they're playing, or the warband members that they're playing, have certain classes. There's certain types. And there is a chart, a very simple chart, broken down by type of warband member. And it's a D6. And basically, when enemy X is supposed to move, what type is enemy X? You look at the chart, you roll the D6, and it tells you what kind of behavior. Are they going to shoot? Are they going to run? Are they going to cower? Are they going to lock up? Are they going to go aggressive? I know 6 doesn't sound like a lot, but there's probably a dozen or more different options. Some of the more advanced bad guys have more aggressive roles. Some of the more what I would call thuggish type, the bullies that are going to run and hightail it, they tend to cower when they get pressure put on them. So the solo rules, again, they're not going to give you that sensation of a real human being, but they have been developed, in my opinion, well enough that they give me, when it's time to move one of the minis, I roll randomly, and it gives me a variability in what that enemy's going to do, not just move and shoot. There are options for what they're going to do, and it makes the game much more fun when you're playing solo like I do. All right, let's talk tactics and strategies. You might think, and I did too, you might think that a little 16-page rule book is not going to offer a lot in the way of tactics and strategic thinking, and you will be surprised. And I think it has to do with the rules, the mechanics, which I'll talk on shortly. The mechanics of this game use the mechanics use a mechanic. You can't say that. The dice mechanic in this game it's not unique. I've seen it in other games, but what it does is it allows you a little bit of an opportunity to, when you need to go aggressive, you can. And when you need to be defensive, you're not forced to. And the reason for that is you are given this thing called command points. And I'll mention this in another one of the reasons to play it. But there's this thing called command points. And you get a certain number of them each turn. And after all your warband is moved and all your enemies moved, a new turn begins, and you get your command points back. If you don't spend them, they don't carry over. So it's use them or lose them until the next turn. But these command points, they allow you to issue a very small list. I think it's like 6 different possible commands that you can interrupt your opponent with. Okay, one of them is called Overwatch. There's another one that allows you to bump your dice type up, and I'll get to the dice types in a minute. What these do is they allow you hold on to them until you really see your opening, and then you spin them to give yourself advantages and benefits that your opponent may have already spent their command points. So there's this give and take of you're watching, and you always tell them when you're spending a command point. So you'll know how many your opponent has left and he'll know how many you have left. But the command points add this nice little strategic bit to it that allow you to get your warband into position and do certain special things when you're ready to do them. Now the other thing is, you would think that the movement system in this game would make the game less complex, but in my opinion, it makes it much more interesting. It uses these sticks. A stick is 5 inches long, and I'll show you in a minute. And you get 3 sticks because a warband member can move 1 stick, they can move 2 sticks, or they can move 3 sticks. And again, it's depending on the skills and statistics that you gave them using that point system I mentioned. The sticks, in many games when you roll movement dice, you roll a die and that's the number of inches you can move, all right? Now think about it. With a 5-inch stick, that allows you to move anywhere from 1 to 5. You're not rolling a D6 -1 or a D5, if there was such a thing, and moving 1 to 5. It's not random. It gives you the chance to place that stick down, and then your miniature can move anywhere and stop anywhere along that stick, all right? Now, let's say they can move 2 sticks. You've given them a move of 2, so they can move 2 sticks for an action. The 2 sticks can be bent, so that you can do an angle turn. You could do a zigzag type thing. I've never played a game where you had that kind of mechanic where you could move anywhere in that distance range. Now, the games that I have played where you roll a die, if you roll a 6 to move, most games say you can move up to 6. So you could choose 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 or 6. But the sticks allow you to place them down, and it's totally legal within the game, and it gives you the chance to try to look at things. You can place the stick and go, okay, if I move them here, I'm going to have to place the other stick here. Now, the one caveat is they move along the stick, and when they stop, that stick is done. So if you have another stick, you can change their angle. You can't break one stick into, say, 3 inches and 2 inches. It doesn't work that way. You would need 2 to go 3 and then 2. So I hope that makes sense, and I'll demo it on the table in just a few. All right, this one should be easy to say, and I've mentioned it. It's easy to play. I mentioned the rule book is very short, but what do I mean by easy to play? The rules, super simple. You are using a set of dice between D4 and D12. You don't use a D20. You'd use a D4 through a D12. So let me put these up here. 4, 6, 8, 10, and 12. These are your dice types. Now, when you buy a certain dice type, let's say for your ability to shoot a ranged weapon, each one of these progressively costs more, right? More points. Because with a D12, you're rolling to try to beat the number, the defensive number of your opponent. And defense is another skill that you're going to invest points in, and you're going to buy one of these dice. So if you're firing on an opponent who rolls a D6 for defense, and you roll a D12 for ranged weapon, you can see that you have a very good chance of beating the number that your opponent rolls. So the ease of playing this game is you just roll the dice, and your number, does it beat the other person's number? If it does, you win that battle. Now, it's not so simplistic as when you hit, they die. We'll get to that in a moment. But the dice mechanic also, remember those command points I mentioned to you? One of the command point options is to increase your die type by 1. So you could go from a D6 to a D8. You could go from a D10 to a D12. You can't go higher than a D12, and you can't go less than a D4. So the strategy and tactical part of it is complex, but remembering the rules of the dice, D4, D6, D8, D10, D12, and shifting up and down those and knowing that the highest value wins, I mean, that's as easy as it gets. Another reason you should be playing this game is, especially if you have kids, this is, hands down, one of the best war games, in my opinion, for playing with your kids. The rules, again, super easy. The dice, the tokens you'll use, I'll mention these in a moment. The ability to use whatever miniatures you want. Kids, especially like my young son, started playing this years ago, a couple years ago, and he still occasionally will sneak down here to play a game of Space Weirdos with his dad. It's a fun game. He's played more complex war games, but we always come back to this because, again, no leveling up, no campaign. It is a drop-in game, play a game, win or lose, walk away until you want to play again. It's very fair, too. I cannot tell you the number of times I've lost this game to my son. He's very good with tactical games, especially war games, but he just understands the concepts of the dice and how they work. He also understands the value of that stick movement that I mentioned. He sometimes will, it's really funny, he's the one that taught me that the sticks, if you can get one of your warband members to move 2 or 3 sticks, he has gotten places that I did not expect him to go, and had an angle on one of my warband members that totally surprised me. So for kids, absolutely, you're not going to have to spend a fortune. $5 for the rules. You can use any minis that you want. The dice you probably already have. If you're playing any kind of RPGs or war games, you probably have all the dice you need. And I'm going to be honest, playing this with my son is 10 times better than sitting and watching television together or watching a movie. It's interactive, and it's fun, and we laugh a lot. And when he wins, inevitably, it's a fun laugh for him to say, "Better luck next time, Dad." Again, you have kids. It's a great war game. Not what I would call overly violent. Yes, you're shooting weapons. Yes, some of the aliens have claws and things. But the descriptions of the results are not graphic at all. It's up to you to control the violence and describe what happens or not. You're out. Okay, this one may or may not matter to you, but it's a big one to me. I have played war games where it's I go, I move all my people, and then you go, you move all your people. I don't like games like that. I like where I move a mini, you move a mini. I move a mini, you move a mini. Now remember, earlier I mentioned that you might have more or fewer warband members than your opponent does. And if that's the case, yeah, you will probably move well before your opponent moves all theirs. But there is this initiative system, and you will roll initiative at the start of each round or each turn, and the winner can decide to pass. If you have fewer minis than your opponent and it comes to your turn, you can choose to pass and let them go. It's once it gets down to an even number, then you're going to go back and forth. But my son has used this. He's the one who used this first. he had 6 warband members to my 10, and he would wait to see what I did. He would go, no, I'm not going to go, and I would have to go, and then he might on the next turn. So he used that to his advantage, and I thought it was pretty smart. But I like the you go once, I go once, and back and forth, and not waiting for my opponent to move all of their miniatures. Okay, before I get to the tabletop to show you some of these mechanics, I want to tell you the last reason you should be playing this game. And as someone who plays a lot of solo games, I think this is important. It comes with a single half-page cheat sheet. This is it. My son and I have played this game enough. We never really open the rule book anymore. All you need to play the game is on the back. That includes the tables, resolving hits and misses, whether you're shooting or doing a fight or a psychic power attack. It's all here. It even lists the actions you can do and how many action points they take. There's a unique system of injury. You're up, which means you're ready. You are staggered, and then you are down. It moves from that. So when you're down, you have to stand up, and then you will shake off the staggered. If you are standing up and you're staggered, you have to shake off the staggered before you can do anything. It's really simple. Again, I'll show you how that works on the tabletop in just a moment. But let's summarize. So inexpensive, very cheap, miniature agnostic, no campaign, no leveling, point system for picking your warband, very tactical, very strategic options, easy to play, great to introduce kids. The alternate, I'll move a mini, you move a mini, and then, of course, the single-page cheat sheet. So, there's your 10 reasons why you ought to be playing Space Weirdos. Let me close out this video. I'm going to point the camera down real quick and just give you a little look of how the miniature and combat and movement plays out. And then I'm going to leave it up to you to decide whether the game is something you might like to check out and play yourself. Give me just a second. I'll get the camera pointed down. Hey everybody, this is Jim the Tabletop Engineer, and let me interrupt this video for about 30 seconds to let you know about my new Patreon. It's just $2 a month, and all of my patrons get access to all of my videos that normally appear on YouTube, but they get them a week earlier than normal. I also have a number of games that I play privately that only my patrons have access to. In addition, once a week we do a live miniature painting session. You come online with me and we paint and chat. I also do a once a month live chat session. We talk about anything and everything. If this sounds of interest to you, check the video description below. There's a link to my Patreon. Like I said, it's just $2 a month, and what those extra funds allow me to do is make more videos, and that's what I want to do. So I hope you'll consider joining me as a patron, and now let's get back to the video. Okay, I've got 2 miniatures placed out here with a piece of terrain between them, and I'm going to use this just to give you a real fast demo of how movement and combat works. Now, you're going to need, like I said, a D4 to a D12. Actually, you're going to want 2 of each. I should have stated that earlier, but those are the dice types you're going to use. But when you fire or defend, you're going to be rolling 2 dice. So if your attack is a D8, you'll roll 2 D8 and take the higher. That's why when you're rolling 2 D12, you have a very good chance of hitting. Your odds are significantly higher if your opponent is rolling like a D6 or a D8 because you're adding them together. All right, tokens and the move sticks. These come with the game as in a PDF, I believe. You can print them out, laminate them, and I just chose to laser print them, and I painted up about 6 different varieties, colors, so when I play this at conventions with others, I have enough tokens for everybody and they know whose is who. The tokens help you track things like movement and whether you're stunned. For example, 3 movement tokens. There's one with 1 footstep, this one has 2, and there's another one with 3. And all that is after you move, if you only move once, you would place 1 token to indicate that he has moved. If you use 2 sticks to move, which I'm going to show you, you would place 2. And if you used all 3, you would place the 3. Why does it matter? Well, not only does it tell you that that person is moved, but if you're moving 2 or 3 sticks, it's going to be harder for your opponent to shoot you. You know, think about it. You're a fast-moving target. So here's how it works. When you purchase your abilities for your warband members, you're going to be purchasing their speed, their defense, which is the dice you roll when they're shooting or attacking you. Your firepower, which is when you shoot, your prowess, which is your hand-to-hand combat, and willpower, which really comes into like mind powers, psychic powers, and things like that. But you spend points to buy the dice type. You will not have enough dice points to max out the speed, the defense, the firepower, the prowess, and the willpower. As a matter of fact, if you ever do, you've given yourself too many starting points. For example, I think the game tells you that in a two-player game, start with, I think, 125 points for a warband, and I think we've gone up to 200, and that was about the max that a two-player game could do. But let me show you how this works. Let's say that I only spent enough power to give him a move 1. I would place the stick. I can move him anywhere along that stick, left or right side, as long as he's touching it. And then I place a 1 move token, and that is his move. Now, a miniature, a warband member, gets 3 actions. But if his move is a level 1 move, or a rating 1 move, he can only use 1 move stick during his turn. The other 2 actions could be to shoot, to aim. There are other things he can do. Interact. But let's put him back, and let's say that he has a movement of 2. With 3 actions, he can move once here, and then he can move once here. And now he's within weapons range. Many of the weapons have a range that you can shoot, so you're always allowed to measure that to see what the range is. But I know that his weapon is within range, and this guy is not in cover. So let's assume that I spent enough firepower on him to buy him a D8 for his firepower. And this enemy has a D10. Now, I don't have 2 of each, so I'll roll them twice. So when I choose to fire, I have moved twice, which leaves me 1 action. I choose to fire. I roll the D8 twice. I rolled a 6 and a 6. I rolled a 12 total. My enemy rolls 2 and a 9, 11. I beat him by 1 point. Now, I'm not going to get into the command points. There are things that you can do to bump that up. He could have spent a command point to increase it from, say, a D10 to a D12. You can do that when you can and when you have command points. You can do that in combat, okay? So, I hit him. Now, it's not just a matter of, this game is not so simple as I hit him and now he's dead. Instead, you go to a chart on the back of the book, which is a cheat sheet, and it says under fire or under attack. Under fire is when the enemy or the target has been hit by a ranged weapon. Under attack means it's hand-to-hand melee weapons. So under the effect, you're going to roll 2d6. My enemy will roll 2d6. And depending on the result, there's a lot of things that can happen. On a 2 to 3, which is really rare, right, a double snake eyes, he can return fire. The defending model may immediately take a shoot action against the attacker, and that doesn't count to his turn, or like if he was going to go next. On a 4, it's a snapshot. The defending model may take an immediate shooting action at -1 DT, dice type. So let's say that his dice type was an 8 as well. He could immediately take a snapshot at me by going down 1 DT and rolling 2d6. Now, my defense is D12. So I rolled a 6. He rolled a 6 to my 3, and let's double up. He rolled a 12 to my 14. So his snapshot back at me did not hit. On a 5, this person can run for cover. They must move 1 stick if able. This move must not bring it into contact. Why does it say if able? Well, let's say that they have, a 3 here. Well, no, that's not right. If they have, it doesn't matter if they've already moved. If he has a 1, 2, or 3 here. The able is if he's staggered. Let's say he was down and I shot at him. Sometimes you want to shoot at a down enemy. He would not be able to move. He might also not be able to move because there might be other enemies around or friendlies that prevent him from getting into cover. Because it says the defending model must move 1 stick if able, and it must not bring into contact with an enemy model. So it's possible he could be pinned in and he just cannot move. On a 6, dive for cover. the defending model must move one stick. This move must not bring it into contact with an enemy and place it down. So wherever he moves, he would have to go down like he's diving for cover. Now remember, when you're down, one of your actions has to be to stand up. So he's wasted an action there. And then finally, we get into the bad stuff. If he rolls the 2d6 and he rolls a 7, he's down, no damage. If he rolls an 8, he's staggered, which means he's up, but you put a staggered token, and the only thing he can do on his next turn is remove the staggered ability. On a 9 and 10, he is staggered and down. So he's got to spend 2 actions to first remove the staggered and another one to stand up. And then finally, on a 10 or higher, on 2d6, I rolled an 11. He is out of action. That's how you take one out of action. Now, there are some other good things that can be done. When you're shooting, if you beat his defense roll, it's a hit. But if you roll more than double his defense roll, you get to add +1 on the under fire table. If you roll triple if I rolled a 12 and his total was a 4, triple, you're going to add +2 to this table. So it increases the likelihood of something bad happening. The table exists also when you're in hand-to-hand combat as well. And of course, if the defense roll beats the attack roll, it's a miss. So that's how it works. Again, Space Weirdos, a skirmish heartbreaker. I will put a link to the game in the video's description. Definitely check it out. I am probably going to be playing some games of this solo very soon, so keep an eye out for those. But I just cannot tell you how much I enjoy playing this game. And as a matter of fact, when the video goes off, I'm going to go see if my son wants to play a game real quick. All right, that's all I got. This is Jim the Tabletop Engineer. Thanks for joining me as I explain some reasons why you should be playing this war game. If you have any questions, post them in the comments and I'll do my best to answer them. All right, that's all I got. I'll see you in the next video. Everybody, take care.
Check out the new RPG and Wargame newsletter. Each week, the Tabletop Engineer shares news, products, Kickstarters, and much more related to the gaming hobby. It's free to subscribe, so check out the link in the video description below to sign up.